Good morning, everyone. We had some connectivity problems. I think it's probably about 9:10-ish, maybe 9:15. And welcome to the Stockbridge Board of Assessors meeting on Monday, February the 6th. Mike?
Good morning. The last meeting that we had scheduled for our second meeting in January was canceled due to weather and the town hall being closed. So the last meeting minutes would have been for the first meeting of the year that we had in January. And everything that was on that has been resolved. There are a few things that were on the last meeting schedule that are rescheduled for today to review. Number 2, deed changes for fiscal year 24. I will be done with all the name changes, address changes for all the deeds that came in last year by the end of this week. Map changes for fiscal 24, there really are only 3. And those will get sent with the deed changes as soon as I'm done with them at the end of probably end of next week. And we'll get that going.
So Mike, on the website now, our property cards, it appears they don't show our taxpayer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll have to look. They did update. We are under an upgrade to have the new values from the version 8 on there. And there have been a few glitches, but I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. Well, maybe after the meeting, we'll look at it real quick, but
Okay.
there's some issues with the website.
All right. Our annual report, I'm still working on that. It's due next week. I will send the draft to you guys at the end of the week and you can approve it. And probably won't be that much change. I will mention something about the reval and what happened to valuations and the tax rate in that review. Budget requests are due next week. I did include a copy if you want to quickly go over this. I boxed in the areas that we can really only talk about. I mean, salaries and everything else is up to whatever happens with the town. The appraisal services line, there's nothing in there. We've basically used everything. The only thing that is actually not in this, it was transferred from the overlay. Remember the 4 items that we transferred from the overlay last year to pay for reval related costs? The only amount that should be left in there is $1,500, which will go towards, and I talked to Tim Fountain last week, having our sketches put on the website. So that now has a project number and he has a team of people on it. They're going to send me instructions for what I have to do on our end. And I had to send an email and approve the $1,500 fee for one-time fee for that. That should wipe out the amounts that we released from overlay to pay for certain items. The only thing other than and actually, I don't think we're even in charge of postage anymore, are we? No, so we don't even have to really deal with that one. We are going to still have to put in money, and whether it comes out of the overlay, and I did mention this to Mike, or it's a special article, is the continuing yearly appraisal fees for the 504 utility companies. That's not going away, and it's something that we're going to have to either have a line item for or take it out of overlay each year. I need to talk to Mike on how they want to handle that. That's $4,000. It's $2,000 per appraisal. That's state, that has to be done. The state, it's a requirement. So that would be really the only thing that I think we need because it's non-reval. Postage is gone. That's one account now. Office supplies, even though it shows we went over on that, that's because we had to order when the new year changed and we went to use our timestamp for applications received, we realized it only went up to 2022. So those aren't cheap either. That's about $130 for that. So that put us over a little. We won't have that expense this coming fiscal year. So I think we're fine if we leave everything the way it is. Dues and subscriptions, it shows that it's that I have to look into. I think Marshall and Swift may have gone up a little on that. So we might want to bring that up to cover the 145 that we were short on. It has to be because everything else is pretty much the same. Those are the fees for us being in the MAAO, being on the Berkshire County Assessors Association. It's and it's the amount that we pay to Marshall and Swift valuation system for their real estate, the smaller real estate book and the larger real estate valuation book. That just like everything else, I'm pretty sure that went up. So I think we'd be okay leaving it alone, but I'd have to double check that unless you want to go up a little bit on the dues and subscriptions to cover that.
Right, if we need to go up $150 to bring it to $1,550, we should do that.
Okay.
And just circling back on this spending from the overlay account. I don't know why it is in the normal, why is it not included in the normal budget for appraisal services?
Well, that's something that we probably should put in there. I'm more comfortable with when we have stuff to do for appraisals, like the one that Roy Bishop does for us for the Glendale Power, which is now it's still going to be every 5 years. We probably should put that in there. It's a constant. It's not going to change and go away.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
I don't think we need to take anything out of overlay.
Well, that's thing. I don't think it's
really
practice to be spending money out of overlay that doesn't get reported through this functionality.
Well, we could put it in there. The reason we did it was because we were in a reval and it is an option, but there is a line item already for appraisal services. It is an appraisal service.
And it is.
And it's not going to change.
And it's something that we've been doing for how many years?
This would be the third year.
Yeah.
And it has to be done.
Yep.
And if you wanted, you could even
We don't have the capability of doing it in-house. It's too complicated and the state really expects towns to pay for this themselves anyway.
Yeah. And if you wanted to be a little more specific, you could put the 504 yearly 504 utility.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is not a reval expense.
Right.
That is a yearly expense. Revals are every 5 years. Yep. And yeah, I agree. That's a must. And it's not something that really should go to town meeting vote either, because we have to do this.
Right.
This isn't something that should be voted on. Yeah. It is a requirement.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that happen in town that have to happen.
Yes.
But they still have.
I mean, if I could do it myself, I would, but at this point it is a procedure that there are very few assessors that have the capability of actually producing an appraisal that can be held up in court and that they can actually, attest to in court without the utility company slamming it. I will say for the third year in a row, we have not had an application for abatement on any of those. So the increase that we have, and they've been substantial increases for Berkshire Gas, National Grid, and Eversource on the valuations, well over $1 million. And there has been so it's working. Those appraisals are worth it. So I will put that in it for that line item and we'll just and I'll up the other one accordingly. I'll look at all the bills to see what that 145 shortage is, but I'm pretty sure it's an increase in Marshall and Swift. Okay. You do have a motor vehicle warrant that was on the agenda for last meeting that has to be signed. Gary, I think you already did.
Already did it, yeah.
And just as a quick note, the big first commitment, when is that? Oh, you guys will sign that one at the next meeting, right? The big motor vehicle commitment.
Yeah.
I think we have it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So that one's coming. Those bills will be going out soon. You also have Number 7, board to sign abatement certificates. These are from the ones that you voted on at the first meeting in January. Those would have been on the agenda for last time. Those need to get signed. There are, number 8, there are the filing date for real estate, personal property, and real abatements was January 19th of 23. We did receive 2 late filings, and you guys we're required to send a notice of late application. We did keep the envelope that they came in to verify the date, and they were indeed received and sent out after the assessment date, so those have to go out. Put this. Okay. Number 9, we got the CAI tax map maintenance in, and for the year. I believe it's the same as last year, and you guys need to sign this. Okay.
So Mike, we're doing it where it says bye.
Yes, yep.
I'm glad they gave us so much room.
I know.
Is anyone with us virtually?
No. Number 10 is real estate tax exemption options and changes. Last year, when there was talks about the residential exemption and the available options that we have both at a local level and a state level for various tax exemptions for the elderly, the veterans, the blind, anyone that would fit into a tax deferral or the senior work off and aid for the elderly. We kind of got, Mike and I worked on a little presentation. He presented it to the select board, and there was talks that there are options where we can, not us, but the select board can present at the town meeting to take existing, like the tax deferral, and actually change the amount for the tax deferral and lower the interest rate. Just to do everything we can do. And I think the select board will be looking for a recommendation from the Board of Assessors on the options. There aren't a lot of options because we already have we have the veterans 10% disability exemption. We have the blind exemption. We have the 17E, which is the surviving spouse, and the lower amount for the elderly. And we have the 41D, which is the $500 abatement for qualifying elderly citizens, which have to verify their income and their equity. There is another option, which is called the 41C, and there's only 2 communities that have it. Mike's done some research. I have an IGR on it. it's different. It would eliminate our current 41. I don't want to get into it too much because I want to be able to give you guys a spreadsheet, show you the IGRs. You can read up on that stuff, and then we can discuss it. Mike had mentioned to me that, we should put it on the agenda now because, town meeting will be here in no time, because those options, need to be approved at the next town meeting. And like I said, there aren't a lot more options. If we were to go with what the 41C.5 is, you would have to rescind what we already have, which is the 41D. And 41D is increased every year. The amount of exemption isn't increased, but the income and equity amounts of which you can go up to are increased by the cost of living adjustment that the state sends us every year. And so far, I mean, those amounts are already like close to 70,000 for your income. I'm not sure the 41C.5 is going to, the only difference with the 41C.5 is there is zero amount of equity that you can consider. So for an example, you could have an applicant that is on Social Security, but has $1 million in the bank and could still get the exemption. That's probably, it's a little unusual. I definitely have to read up on it a little bit more. Mike's read up on it too. And again, I'm waiting for him to send me he said he would send me the spreadsheet, which I'm sure he will, that has all of the options that we can go with. But it's definitely something we should have on the agenda until you guys make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen as to where we can go with these. There, again, it has to be a vote at the town meeting. It's not something that they can do at their.
Which one, Mike?
Changes to the tax deferral.
Right, so
And adopting a 41C.5 that has to go to town meeting.
so the 41C.5 has to go to town meeting.
Yep.
And which other one?
The increase in the income amount and interest rate for the tax deferral, that has to go to town meeting as well.
Okay, just so everybody understands where we're at.
And I believe correspondence from town council basically stated that, we can't have a 41D and a 41C.5 option. You have to rescind one and vote in the other one. The 17 will stick. That's always going to be, for example, if there was a senior that came in and was just over the income and equity amounts and didn't qualify for the $500 amount, we always then say, okay, well, let's look at the lower one, which is, I think, 384 right now. And that eliminates them having to include their income. They would just have to meet the equity side of it. But the catch with the 41C.5 is, it would open it up to a lot of people applying. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but at the same time, is it the right thing that the town wants to do? And again, it's very, I don't know. I would say it's a wee bit controversial, but again, there's a few towns that have it, and it's something that we should look into and make sure we know everything about it and see if it's something that, we should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, if only 2 out of 352 municipalities adopted it, I would say there's
something about it.
There's something that.
There really is. And
Otherwise,
again,
everybody would be on it, I would think, if it was
right.
that great of a.
Well, the main controversial thing is it eliminates us ever asking or looking at the equity that a person has. And again, it would be, they would not have to disclose
And that's
anything.
That's 41C.5. Yeah.
Yep. Right now, we have to check for income and equity on every 41D that we have. Typically, you vote in a 41C, and that's what the town has. We took the step many, many years ago to adopt the extension, which is the D. What that does is it still, and again, I wish the 500 was 1,000. We've rallied for years to try to get that amount, the assessors groups to get that amount higher. And the income and the equity, we adjust by the COLA every year. So at least that's bringing in more people that can qualify, still getting the 500, which, like I said, is a very low amount. But that's a state thing. That's nothing that we can control. But I do think it's important and, the selectmen expect that we should look into every option that we have and they can, present what they want to present. But I do think there's nothing that we can change on the aid for the elderly. You guys have your qualifying, options on that. There really isn't anything we can change on the veterans and the blind exemptions. We did get a few new filers this year. And again, it's not something that you should be embarrassed of. If you're at that age 70 and you want to contact us to see if your if your income and equity and, all the other qualifying questions come into play, we can look into it. You have until April 1st. April 1st is the deadline for filing for fiscal year 23. And so right now it's still open for filing. So I will put this on the next meeting.
Yeah,
And we'll have the
that's fine,
spreadsheet and
yeah.
we can go over that until you guys have made a decision.
I just think that, we have to be careful because, we have a duty to the town, towards the income piece. And, we can certainly be aware of, how it can help individuals. But I think we have to keep in front of us the fact that we need to, not stray too far, I don't think,
Right.
from where we're, our trajectory so far has been fairly solid. So
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the money has to be raised and
Right.
somebody has to pay for it.
pay for it, yeah.
So
That's
when
what
you
I'm
give an
saying.
abatement to one person, that means
It
some
does,
other people are.
yes, the exemptions and the abatements come out of the overlay account, always.
Yep.
Yes, but
Yep.
ultimately. it comes back
Ultimately,
to-
though, it
Yes,
comes
we
out of the
do get a
town
little bit of a
office.
reimbursement, and it's not 100%.
Yeah,
And again, we can look at those numbers for
Yeah.
how much we get reimbursed as
just,
well.
but I just, just so everybody understands, so I mean, the bills have to be paid and somebody has to pay them,
Yeah.
so.
But I think it would be nice to know the state reimbursement
Yeah.
for each
Yes.
classification.
Yeah, and actually, it's not, you're only allowed, I know Mike has this number, and I can get it from him. If you have 50 abatement applications, they're not going to, or exemption applications, they're not going to give you a reimbursement for every single one of them. You're per town, there's a calculation where they'll say, okay, we're going to give you 20. So again, there is going to be, if you adopt a much higher amount that's coming off, that's less reimbursement and more hit to your overlay.
Yeah. And it would be curious to make sure if we're maxing out a reimbursement with the state.
Right.
So in other words, are we, if the state is allotting us whatever, $20,000, are we actually getting the 20,000 back from the state, or are we
Exactly.
leaving money on the table?
Yep.
For sure. Yeah.
Point.
Okay, I don't think there is no one zoomed in, so the 11 doesn't pertain. We do have to go into executive session.
Before we do that, I might just give a quick report on the pilot.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, that's all right.
include that.
So we finally have our new questionnaire ready to go out, and we've selected, this is Peter Strauss and I, who's the co-chair. We've selected 6 nonprofits that we're going to reach out to initially. They cover the spectrum of people who have given in the past and people who haven't, and we're just beginning to get some feedback. And as everyone knows, we're not in the business of negotiating with anybody. We're just getting feedback, and we'll still aim to get our report into the Board of Selectmen by the end of this, by the time of the town meeting. That's our goal.
Okay.
And finally, I was going to announce at the last meeting, but since as you all know, I've decided not to run for reelection for the Board of Assessors. And today being the first day that people can sign up, I thought I should just reiterate. If people want to get out nomination papers, they can do that as of today.
Well, thank you, Tom, and we will miss your guidance and, but we thank you as a board for, the 3 years and, all your, service to the town, actually. So thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you.
Yes, and I want to personally thank Tom. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Tom, because I have 28 years, come July, but when I was hired, it was by Tom back in 1995, so I am forever grateful to
I
you.
was on the Board of Assessors. I was on the Board of Selectmen then.
Yes, yep.
And actually, it was the assessors who had a very strong relationship with them.
Well, either or, thank you very much, and I appreciate everything you've done.
It has been 6 years, actually, that I've been on this board.
That's right.
That's what I say. I thought it was a little
That's what I
longer.
meant, yeah.
Very much appreciated the collegiality and working with all of them.
And you're going to
Absolutely.
continue to be here, obviously, between the end of your term.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Great.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, again, thank you very, very much.
Sure. Well, thanks.
Michael, just one thing before we close. Did we say we're going to send a letter to the select board about the pilots that may have expired or?
Yes, yeah, I have it. That's going to go out.
So does that have to be like in the minutes or?
No, because I think I think the last time Patrick was in here, we mentioned that we were going to be sending something to them. So we have made them aware of it.
Okay.
And it does coincide with the 3BCs that were just sent out. Because I wanted to mention too that there was a separate letter included with all the exempt 3BC applications that went out that stated that the Board of Assessors would like to know not just the usage or what your organization is about separately, but what every building is being used for. So I hope we get a good response on that as well.
Oh, yeah.
And those went out, they have until the 3BCs in the form of list until March 1st to come back to us. Okay, did you want to, I know there's a lot to read.
Yeah, that's fine. Do we have to close the meeting first or can we close it and vote to go into executive session simultaneously?
I think we can handle it the way we typically
Yeah, I think we have
do.
to make the motion, vote on it, then just say we're not going.
Yeah. okay.
Right.
So I would entertain a motion. Well, first of all, I have to read this. So number 12 on the agenda, the assessors will vote to enter into executive session per Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to discuss and review fiscal year 23 exemptions and a fiscal year 23 personal property abatement for the following tax bill numbers. Number 182, number 185, number 283, number 350, number 688, number 723, number 874, number 1140, number 1237, and number 1239. And also to enter into executive session under the purpose 7 per Massachusetts General Law C, number 59 and section 60, for the purpose of discussing an application for tax exemption regarding the property owned by Berkshire Scenic Railway Museum located at 2 Depot Street. And also, when we are done with our executive session, we will not return to the open meeting session, and upon completion of the executive session, we will adjourn. So I would entertain a motion to do all that I just mentioned.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Gary, aye.
Aye.